and you are one, always tomorrow. And I'll be your friend. I'll be your you can be my own. Follow your own. You need to go. It all means somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. It all means somebody to lean on. I'll help you, but it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lead. Only brother, and you need a hand. We all need somebody to lead. Oh, we all need somebody to lead. You have to carry right up the road. If you just call me, call me, call me, call me, call me. If you need a friend, call me, 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 call me. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the call. I'm so grateful for the privilege to share this thought with you again this afternoon. Thank you for joining the call. I believe that today's call is going to add value to you, and I'm so privileged to share this with everyone on the call today. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Today, I want to drop some thought in our hearts on the back of what we discussed last week. I really want to appreciate everyone on the call for your time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the platform to listen to my thoughts and the thought of all my teachers, mentors, the books I've read. So I'll just dive into it straight away. I believe others will join us as we go on. I want to share with us today what I've called invest in your mental health. So I'm just going to try to recap a little bit from where we stopped last week, just for purpose of clarity. I find out that in my own life, that the more I read a text, the more I ponder on a thought, the more clear it becomes in my mind. So I suspect that it might be the same for everybody. So I just want to remind us what we spoke about last week, just a little bit of it, and go deep into what we want to talk about today. So today I really want to talk about invest in your mental health. I believe that we are in a challenging time. We are in a time of crisis. We are in a difficult time, or in a time of adversity. And I just have the opinion that mental health or mental illness is likely going to increase as a result of COVID-19. And that is why I believe that this is the right time for everyone to be intentional about investing into their mental health. So I just want to remind us what we discussed last week. One of the things we said last week is that mental health, I just want to show you the slide. Give me 1 minute. Technology is, okay, that's good. Here we go. So last week we said mental health is the emotional and spiritual resilience. And last week I mentioned to everyone on the call that they should please write the word emotional and emotional resilience and spiritual resilience. I hope they did, and I hope that they've looked up those words or what it means. So mental health is the emotional and spiritual resilience which enable us to enjoy life and survive pain, disappointment, and sadness. So in my own word, I believe that mental health is the emotional and spiritual resilience that enables you and I to cope with crisis. Mental health is the emotional and spiritual resilience that enables you and I to cope with stress, with challenges, with issues of life. So that is why it's important that we invest in our mental health. Mental health is a positive sense of well-being and an underlying belief in our own and others' dignity and worth. And this definition, like I said last week, is proven, is evidence-based, is by Health Education Authority. They said, look, we need to bring together a definition for mental health for clarity purposes. So mental health is the emotional and spiritual resilience which enables you and I to cope with stress, to cope with challenges, to cope with adversity, to cope with crisis, like the time we are going through right now. We're in a time of crisis. Globally, the whole world is on their knees right now as a result of COVID-19. So last week, I showed us this well-being continuum, which I spent a lot of time to explain to us. I find this very interesting because, you know, it's one of the thoughts behind this well-being continuum that I've come across is the work of Dr. Corey Keyes. He's a researcher, a psychologist, a positive psychologist in America, a lecturer, Dr. Corey Keyes. And he said that mental illness or mental health is not just the absence of mental health. So he said that the absence of mental illness is not the presence of mental health. The absence of mental illness is not the presence of mental health. So what he's saying is that if we look at this continuum in front of us, we could see that in the place where you have balance, we could see growth and development. So everyone starts out at balance. So if we choose to grow and develop, what am I saying? I'm saying if we choose to understand emotional resilience and we develop emotional resilience, if we develop spiritual resilience, then we're going to move towards calmness. And eventually we're going to move toward flourishing. And this is the place where we want to be. We want to be at the place of flourishing, where we'll be productive, where we'll be increasing our performance, where we'll be calm, where we'll be fulfilled in life. That is where we want to be. But if we refuse to grow and develop our emotional resilience, If we refuse to grow and develop our spiritual resilience, we are likely going to move towards anxiety and move into mental illness. And then we move into depression, which is a form of mental illness. We move into psychosis, schizophrenia. We move into all the various type of mental health that we spoke about. We move into mood disorder. We move into anxiety disorder. If we refuse to grow spiritual resilience and emotional resilience, and we begin to have what we call decrease in performance, then we enter into a place of languishing, and that's not where we want to be. And that is the purpose of this talk. I believe that this is going to add value to everyone that is listening or that will listen to it after today. So what I want to really suggest to everyone is that we should grow our spiritual resilience and grow our emotional resilience. We should cultivate emotional resilience. We should cultivate spiritual resilience. If we do that, then we are going to move towards calmness. Calmness is the opposite of anxiety. A lot of people are anxious today. In fact, a lot of people are crippled with fear as a result of COVID-19. And I believe that if we are intentional about cultivating emotional resilience and spiritual resilience, which will help us to cope with stress in life, we're going to move into a place of calmness, and we're going to eventually move into a place of flourishing. Now, like I said earlier on, the absence of mental illness is not the presence of mental health. The absence of mental illness is not the presence of mental health. Flourishing individual function better than all others. So that is why it's important that we are intentional about moving into a state of flourishing, because flourishing individual, that is people that are growing, people that have made up their mind to cultivate emotional resilience, people that have made up their mind to cultivate spiritual resilience, they are going to be better in their life. They're going to be more productive. They're going to be more fulfilled. They're going to enjoy calmness. They're going to enjoy peace. So the point I'm making here is this: the absence of mental illness is not necessarily the presence of mental health. So the absence of anxiety disorder in the life of someone does not mean the person have mental health. That is, the person may not actually be flourishing. The absence of mood disorder, which includes depression, is not necessarily the presence of good mental health. The absence of dementia or schizophrenia or psychotic disorder is not necessarily the presence of mental health. So it's important that we are intentional about cultivating spiritual resilience and emotional resilience. Now, next thing I want to discuss with us today is this: that do you have a plan to grow? Because if we need to grow spiritual resilience or cultivate emotional resilience, we must have a plan in place, especially for such a time as this, when all what we are hearing in the news are things that will dampen our spirit, when all that we are hearing in the news are things that will cause us to fear. So we have to be intentional about our growth. So the question I want to ask everyone listening to me today is that, do you have a plan to grow? Do you have a plan for your growth? Do you have a plan to cultivate emotional resilience? Do you have a plan to cultivate spiritual resilience? Because mental health, for me and you to say that we are enjoying good mental health, we need to be able to cultivate emotional resilience. We need to cultivate spiritual resilience that will help us, that will enable you and I to cope with stress in life, that will enable us to cope with crisis, that will enable us to cope with challenges, that will help us to cope with disappointment. Just in the news, in the course of this week, I saw a young boy of 15 years who committed suicide. The boy killed himself because he cannot cope with life. I understand that everybody's threshold, resilience threshold differs. And the purpose of this presentation is to help everyone listening to me to be intentional about cultivating emotional and spiritual resilience. So the question I'm asking us today is, do you have a plan to grow? Because growth is not natural. Growth doesn't just happen. Emotional resilience will not just happen. Spiritual resilience will not just happen. You will not just grow, because there's a tendency to believe that we're just going to grow. So the question today is, do you have a plan to grow? Do you have a plan to grow, especially in this time? What is your strategy for growth? I'm sure a lot of people have strategies. Some people will say, well, I want to be successful in life, therefore I'm going to work hard. But I found out in life that working hard does not equal to personal growth. I have come across people in my journey of life who are hard workers, but they lack interpersonal relationship. I have seen people lose their job because they lack integrity. I have seen people lose their job because they lack character. So emotional resilience, spiritual resilience. Do you have a plan to grow? Do you have a plan for your personal growth? And that's what I want to communicate to us today. So the question I want to ask again this afternoon is, how do you better yourself? How do you get better at what you do? How do I get better with making presentation like this? How do I improve in my relationship? How do you gain more depth and wisdom as a person? How do you gain insight? How do you overcome obstacles? Do you think we just need to work harder? No. I think that we need to be intentional about growth. When we are intentional about growth, then we begin to gain wisdom. We begin to gain knowledge, because I believe that knowledge and wisdom will not come to anybody. We have to go and seek for it. When you go to seek for knowledge, you go to seek for wisdom, then it will come to you. So I believe that to discover your purpose in life, you need to grow in self-awareness. You need to know who you are. I need to know who I am. To discover my purpose, I need to know why did God created me? Why am I here? I need to grow in self-awareness. I need to know myself. What are the things I like? What are my gifts? What are my giftings? What are the things that are easy for me to do? So growing in self-awareness will help me to discover my purpose in life. To become a better human being, we need to grow in character. To become a better human being, we need to grow in character. I have come across people, especially in Africa, well, maybe in this part of the world as well, that lack integrity. So to be a better person in life, we need to grow in character. To advance in our career, we need to grow in our skills. To be a better spouse, a better parent, we need to understand relationship. Therefore, we need to grow in relationship. To reach our financial goals, we need to grow in knowledge about money. And of course, to enrich our soul, to develop spiritual resilience, we need to grow in spiritual things. So today, I want to submit to us that growth is not natural, and we must be intentional about our growth. We need to be intentional about cultivating spiritual resilience. We need to be intentional about cultivating emotional resilience. So to do that, we need to understand there are some growth gaps. There are some things that will hinder us from growing intentionally. There are things that will hinder you and I from growing intentionally, because growth has to be intentional. For us to grow, we have to be intentional about our growth. Growth doesn't just happen. We have to be intentional about growing. So I'd like to share with us about 8 growth gaps. That is, things that could hinder us from growing. The first gap I'll talk about is the assumption gap. The assumption gap simply say that I assume that I will automatically grow. That, well, I'm just going to grow automatically, because growth will not just come to us. Naturally, when you give birth to a child, as long as you are feeding the child with breast milk or other milk, and the child is eating balanced diet, it is so natural the child will grow. It will grow physically. All the parts of the body will grow. But do you know that that is not the same with emotional intelligence or emotional resilience? is not the same with spiritual resilience. We have to be intentional about growing. We have to be intentional about growing this area of our life. We have to be intentional. So we must not assume that we are going to grow. We must not assume that we are going to grow. We have to be intentional with our growth. The problem is that if we don't grow, we are going to suffer pain in life. If we don't grow, we're going to suffer let down. We're going to give up in the midst of crisis. And that is why I believe that I should share this thought with us, because I really love for us to think about it. I have seen people with potential give up. I've seen people with potential. I've seen people that have bright future commit suicide because they gave up. Because they gave up as a result of stress. Because life is full of challenges. Life is full of adversity. And that is why we must not assume that we're going to grow automatically. We must be intentional about our growth. We must be intentional about our growth. And you see, a lot of people, once they are done with formal education, they don't read any other book in their life. After formal education, a lot of people don't read books. But I want to submit to us this evening that after formal education, we must take complete ownership of our growth process. We must read books like the 15 Invaluable Law of Growth, which I'm sharing with us tonight. Some of the thoughts I'll be sharing tonight is from this book, 15 Invaluable Law of Growth. We must be intentional about our personal growth. Another thought that I pick up in this book as well is that a lot of people want to change their life, but they don't want to grow. Do you know that if we want to change anything in this world, the first thing we must change is ourselves? If I want to change my wife, I must grow in understanding relationship. I must grow in communication. If I want to change the people I'm leading, I must grow in my area of leadership. If I want to grow my organization, I must grow the people. So the assumption gap, people assume that they're going to grow. The second one is the knowledge gap. I don't know how to grow. And that is why I'm sharing this thought with us tonight. A lot of people don't know how to grow. A lot of people don't know how to grow. And thank God, this book, I'm going to recommend it to us if everyone who really want to grow, 15 Invaluable Law of Growth. And tonight, I'm just talking about the law of intentionality, that we have to be intentional about our growth. We have to be intentional. A lot of people don't know how to grow. A lot of people don't know how to grow. To grow, we must be intentional. To grow, we must be intentional. Many people just learn from the school of hard knock. They learn through trial and error. They go into problem and they just, fight their way out of it. And that's how they learn. And I've had people say to me many times, oh, let me learn from my experience. Let me learn from my disappointment. I think wisdom demands that I don't learn from my bad experiences. I could learn from being intentional by studying books like this that could help me grow, that could help me develop emotional resilience so that I can cope with the stress of life, so that I can cope with the challenges of life. So another growth gap is the timing gap. A lot of people say, well, it's not the right time to grow. I mean, now there's confusion all over the place. This is lockdown. This is time for me to just be watching TV day and night. This is just the time for me to whatever people feel that they should do. But I think that there is advantage in adversity. I think there is opportunity even in this lockdown. In fact, I'm feeling inside of me that after this COVID-19 has passed, after it will have passed, there will be a lot of opportunities. And these opportunities, the only people that will take advantage of these opportunities will be people who have prepared themselves for the opportunity. So this is the time to equip ourselves. This is the time to sharpen our skills. This is the time to learn something new. You are locked down. Maybe you are not working. You are just at home. Learn something. Thank God for the internet. Well, I know some of my friends are still working like normal. In fact, they are working more than when they go to work. But if you are one of those people that have all the time in the world, this is the time to invest in yourself. The best thing we can invest into, or the best person we can invest into, is ourselves. A lot of people invest into organizations, they invest into where they work, they spend a lot of their time working for other people, they spend a lot of their time doing other things. But do you know what we should spend most of our time to invest in is ourselves? So someone will say, well, it's not the right time to grow. I want to submit to us tonight that this is the right time to grow. This is the right time to grow. There is a law called the law of diminishing intent. The law of diminishing intent. It simply says the longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. The law of diminishing intent simply says the longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. My brothers, my friends, my sisters, this is the time to grow. This is the time to grow spiritual resilience. This is the time to grow emotional resilience. This is the time to learn about emotional intelligence. This is the time to learn about relationship. This is your time to grow, because after COVID-19, opportunities will come. And when opportunity comes, if we are not prepared, we will not take advantage of it. I hope that everyone listening to me tonight, you will prepare for the opportunity that will present themselves after COVID-19. So another growth gap is the mistake gap. A lot of people, as we say, I'm afraid to make mistakes, so I will not grow. Do you know that last week, presenting mental health awareness, after the presentation, I listened to it. I made a lot of mistakes, but I will not allow that to stop me. You know what that did to me? It pushed me to prepare more for today. I make up my mind that I want to be on point. I will give my best to all my friends listening to me and anyone else that will listen to this after today. So don't let us be afraid of making mistakes. In fact, John Maxwell, our mentor, he said that he wrote a book called Failing Forward. He said, actually, when we fail or when we make mistake, is making mistake or failing is opportunity for us to learn. So don't let us be afraid of making mistakes, because growing could be messy. When we grow, it could be messy. There are things that I've been trying to do right now that I will do it for a while, I will stop, and I will kick myself that, oh, you stopped again. Growing is messy, but you know what? I'll pick it up again and start doing it again. And I have seen a measure of growth in my life. So I want to encourage you. I want to encourage everyone listening to me today that don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just go for it. Go for it. Make up your mind. Be intentional with your growth. Be intentional with your growth. Another growth gap I want to talk about is perfection gap. Perfection gap. I have to find the best way before I start it. You know, before COVID-19, I've been postponing in our local church, that I've been postponing recording the church services, putting it on the YouTube channel. I've been postponing that because I'm waiting for everything to be perfect. But you know, crisis push us to be on YouTube. So don't wait for the time things are perfect. In fact, I've learned in my own journey of life that I become more perfect when I do that thing. The more I do it, the more perfect I become. So don't wait until you are perfect. Just do it. We just need to do what we have to do. Don't try to find the best way to do it. You know, it's similar to driving on an unfamiliar road at night. When you are driving on an unfamiliar road at night, you won't say, well, I need to see the end of this road before I start driving. No. When you start driving, you will not see maybe more than 2 meters or 3 meters or 5 meters, I don't know, depending on the power of your headlamp. But the more you drive into the road, the clearer the road becomes. The more you drive into the road, the clearer the road becomes. It's the same thing with personal growth. It's the same thing with developing or cultivating spiritual resilience or emotional resilience. The more we go into it, the more clearer it becomes. The more we go into it, the more we enjoy it, the more better we become, and the more we can add value to our world. The next growth gap or hindrances to growth or growth gap is the inspiration gap. The inspiration gap. I don't feel like growing. And I believe this is common to a lot of people, including myself. But you know what? Many things I don't feel like doing, but I just do it. And I find out that the more I do it, the better, the more I feel like doing it. Many things I want to do, I don't feel like doing it. For example, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, I want to pray because I'm a person of faith. I love to pray. I believe that praying generates power. So sometimes I wake up, I want to pray, but I don't feel like praying. I just feel like sleeping. But what I do, rise up and I start walking in my house. And before I know it, the feeling to pray will catch up with me. So a lot of people say, well, I don't feel like reading this book. I don't feel like learning this new skill. I don't feel like developing myself. No, you don't have to feel like it. You just have to do what you have to do. I have to do what I have to do. If we are really intentional about adding value to our world, if we are really intentional about making a difference, if we are really intentional about fulfilling our destiny, if we are really intentional about living in that dream, we just have to do it. We just have to do it. Another growth gap I want to talk about is the comparison gap. People compare themselves, others are better than I. I think we don't have to compare ourselves. We just need to do what we have to do. Don't compare yourself. I don't have to compare myself with anybody. I'm just in the league of my own. I am just me, and we can just be ourselves. Don't let us compare ourselves with people, because the truth is, if I feel that I'm the best, maybe I'm just a local champion, because there's somebody that is better than me out there. And when I begin to relate with that person that is better than me, then I begin to grow. I begin to aspire to be better as well. Because when we think that we have learned all we need to learn, then we begin to nosedive. So we need to not compare ourselves with others. Let us stay in our lane. You know, not too long ago, I started jogging. So one of my friends, I asked him, who is very good, who is very disciplined in that area. I asked him to kind of train me. So we will go out together to go and jog. And one of the days that we went out, he told me, he said, look, just stay in your lane. Go at your pace. Don't look at me. Just go at your pace. I want to suggest to someone listening to me tonight, just go at your pace. Just go. Don't look at anybody. Go at your pace. I think that will help somebody. Just go at your pace. Be intentional about your life. Be intentional about pursuing personal growth. Be intentional about becoming better in what you do. Be intentional about sharpening your gift. Just go at your pace. Number one thing that will happen is that you will have peace of mind. Number two is that you begin to grow. Number three is that you begin to shine. Go at your pace. And I think this is the last one on growth gap, is the expectation gap. I thought it would be easier than this. Expectation gap. The truth of the matter is, and I'm saying that someone learning personal growth, someone learning emotional resilience, someone learning spiritual resilience, it's not easy. Sometimes I don't feel like reading. Sometimes I don't feel like praying. Sometimes I don't feel like going for a workshop. Sometimes I don't even feel like listening to somebody talking to me on the laptop, online about personal growth, because they remind me of my weaknesses. But guess what? I just do it. I just do it because I want to be a better person. I want to add value to my world. I want to make global impact. That's my dream. I want to become a person of influence that is adding value to people. I want to become a person of value that is adding value to people. And I know that I cannot add value to people if I don't have the value. So I must become a person of value. Because of that, I pay the price of that pain, because responsibility is the price for greatness. I paid the price. It's painful sometimes, but I paid the price. And I want to challenge everyone listening to me today to please pay the price as well. You see, preparation, which is growth, because when we begin to grow ourselves, even when there is no crisis, we begin to grow ourselves. When we begin to grow ourselves, that is us preparing. And preparation plus attitude, plus opportunity, plus action, that is doing something, equals to luck. I've had people say to me that, oh, that young man is very lucky. Oh, that man is very lucky. That woman is very lucky. I want you to know that there's nothing like luck in this world. There are people who are just preparing. When people prepare, opportunity comes, they take advantage of it. But people who don't prepare, when opportunity comes, they don't even see it. Because opportunity always comes disguised. But people who are prepared, people who have grown, they see advantage in adversity. They see opportunity in crisis. For example, right now, after COVID-19, corporation will close down. People will lose their homes. Businesses will fold up. But guess what? Businesses will start. Some people will make a lot of money. Why? Because they have started thinking. They are sharpening their gifts. They are studying. They are looking for ways to make money, even starting from right now. So, my brothers, my sisters, the call to us tonight is that as we invest in our mental health, how do we invest in our mental health? We are intentional about growth. We are intentional about developing emotional resilience. We are intentional about cultivating spiritual resilience. That is how we can withstand crisis. That is how we can overcome challenges. That is how we can sustain ourselves in the time of difficulties. We must be intentional about personal growth. We must be intentional because they said Rome was not built in a day. If we want to reach our goal, if we want to fulfill our potentials, we have to be intentional about our personal growth because it will actually change our life. We have to be intentional about cultivating spiritual resilience. We have to be intentional about cultivating emotional resilience. We have to be intentional about becoming a better version of ourselves. We have to be intentional about developing and sharpening our skills. We have to be intentional about developing good character. We have to be intentional about that. And when we begin when we are intentional, then we begin to become a better person. We have to be intentional because yes, the journey might be hard, it might be challenging because Rome wasn't built in a day. But you know, the question is, are you willing to give yourself? Okay, let me pause. Somebody is raising their hand. Do you have a question? Do you have a question? That person raising their hand. Do you have a question? Okay, I think, okay. So I'm just gonna continue. If you have a question, you can speak up because I can't hear you. And I don't think I've muted anyone. Everybody can talk. So if you have a question, you can either type it, let me see it, or oh, okay, all right. We just go on then. We just go on then. So Rome wasn't built in a day. So let's move on to the next slide. We'll move on to the next slide. Okay. So let me just deal with this first, please. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Mumba. It's okay. No, let's go on. Let's go on. Let's move to the next slide. Sorry, technology. My computer is funny now. I need to change something here. Let me just do this quickly. Sorry. Okay. So we have to be intentional about our personal growth. So we need to transit from to intentional growth. We need to be intentional about our personal growth. And so I'm going to be showing us 4 ways to be intentional about growth, how we can be intentional about growing ourselves. Because the sooner you make the transition to become intentional about your personal growth, the better it will be for you. Because growth compounds and accelerates if you remain intentional about it. Growth compounds and accelerates if we become intentional about it. Growth compounds and accelerates when we become intentional about it. So when we are intentional about our personal growth, it will help us. The better it will be for us when we become intentional about personal growth. So I'm going to share 4 ways with us, 4 ways how you can be intentional about your personal growth, how you can be intentional about cultivating spiritual resilience, how you can be intentional about cultivating emotional resilience. Because remember that mental health is spiritual and emotional resilience that enables you and I to cope with stress, to cope with crisis, to cope with disappointment, to cope with pain. So we must be intentional about developing this resilience in our life. So the first one I want to talk about is ask yourself the big question now. Ask yourself the big question, maybe today, maybe after this talk. You have to ask yourself this big question, that where do I want to go in life? Because do I want to give up in the journey of life? Do I want to end like my parents? Do I want to make a difference in my life? Do I want to add value to people? Where do I want to go in life? Then you need to ask yourself, what direction do you want to go? I need to ask myself, what's the farthest I can imagine going? If you are my friend, if you are close to me, you know that I imagine a lot. I am a dreamer. I dream about a better tomorrow. I dream about a glorious future. I am a dreamer. I could see a glorious future. In fact, I could see opportunity in this COVID-19. I always seek opportunity in adversity. How far do you think you can go? And how long will it take you to get there? We have to ask ourselves this question. The best you can hope to do in life is to make the most of whatever you have been given. The best we can do, the best you can do, the best I can do in life is to make the most of whatever we have been given. God has been gracious to you and to me. He gave us the gift of life. Many people have died, even in 24 hours. Almost close to 1,000 people have died. So the best we can do is to make the most of what we have been given in life. Someone said, and I think it's John Maxwell, he said, God gift to man is their potential. He said, your gift to God is developing that potential. So, and developing your potential might take time. How long will it take? And my suggestion, my submission to you tonight and to everyone that will listen is that you must do it now. Just do it. Start the journey into cultivating emotional resilience. Start the journey into cultivating spiritual resilience. Start the journey of personal growth. Do you know, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Especially as a pastor of a local church, you know, I'm doing this talk as a John Maxwell speaker, trainer, and coach. But also, I'm a pastor of a local church. As a pastor of a local church, it breaks my heart when I see people suffering. It breaks my heart when I see people stressed up as a result of not growing. Because challenges, when it comes our way, is opportunity in disguise. Every crisis is opportunity in disguise. Every adversity is opportunity in disguise. Every pain is a learning curve. And we must do it now. We must grow now. We must have a sense of urgency that we have to grow now. And if you are hearing me tonight, or you are on this call, but anytime you are listening, maybe in the morning, in the night, afternoon, and you are struggling with doing something now, there's a thought I pick up in 15 Invaluable Law of Growth. And it simply says that before you come out of bed in the morning, you can say to yourself 50 times, do it now, do it now, do it now. Before you go to bed at night, say to yourself, do it now, do it now, do it now. Just do it over a period of time, maybe 90 days, maybe 6 months. And when you do that, you will see that if you are suffering from your procrastination, you will be able to break this habit. Do it now. This is the time to grow because opportunity is coming, and growth is you preparing for that opportunity. This is the time to grow. Pick up a new skill while you're at home. If you're not working, you can learn Excel on Groupon. There's so much on the internet. And I mean, I love to watch film as well. But in the last 3 days, do you know, even though I'm at home, I've not had the opportunity. I've not had the chance to go on Netflix because I'm just so busy. I just want to present this up to you. I just want to give you my best. I want to communicate it as clear as possible. I want everyone listening to me to get this clarity the same way I have it in my mind. So because of that, I've been busy just trying to prepare myself so that I will give it to you, so that it can be clear in your mind, so that you can catch this, or this passion and begin to grow yourself and become a better version of yourself. Do it now. This is the time to do it. The fourth one I want to talk about is you have to overcome your fear factor. You have to face the fear factor. You have to face the fear factor. I'm talking about 4 ways to be intentional in cultivating emotional resilience or spiritual resilience. 4 ways to grow intentionally. 4 ways to grow intentionally. So we must face the fear factor. Number 1 way is you ask the big question. Number 2 is do it now. And number 3, face the fear factor. I have fears too. When we're about to start this talk, I was thinking, oh, maybe everybody has forgotten. Maybe no one will join. But I just said to myself, well, whether people join or not, I'm going to do it anyway because I'm going to record it. And somebody else is going to listen to it as a point and it's going to add value to them. You never know. You have to face the fear factor. Face the fear of failing, the fear of failure, fear of trading security for the unknown. These are the fears that we all face in life. Fear of being overextended on resources. Fear of what other thinks. Fear of pushing other away. We must face all this fear. We must face it. And you know what? One of the ways to overcome fear in life, especially if you are a person of faith, is that you starve your fear, you feed your faith. You starve your fear, you feed your faith. Starve your fear, feed your faith. Starve your fear, feed your faith. For example, if you are someone who is naturally fearful, don't listen to the news more than once a day. Listen to inspirational talks. Listen to positive talks. Listen to the word of God. Listen to preachings. Listen to or read books. Listen to books that will inspire your mind. That is you starving your fear and feeding your faith. If you are someone who is naturally fearful about listening to the news, you see almost 1,000 people have died. You'll be afraid. So you have to be intentional about starving your fear and feeding your faith. I want to round up. Let's talk about the last fear. I'm talking about 4 ways to be intentional about growth. I want to talk about the last one because of time. Time is fast spent. I'd like you to ask yourself, talking about fear, which emotion is stronger? The desire to change and grow. Which emotion is stronger right now in your life? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of trading security for the unknown? Or one of these fear? Which one is stronger? Starve your fear and feed your faith. Let me talk about the last one you want to talk about. We have to change from accidental to intentional growth. We have to be intentional about growth. We have to be intentional about growth. And I'd like you to look at this chart. If you are growing accidentally, you plan to start tomorrow. But if you want to grow intentionally, you insist on starting now. If you want to grow, if you are growing accidentally, you wait for growth to come. But if you grow intentionally, you take responsibility to grow. If you're growing accidentally, you learn only from your mistake. But if you want to grow intentionally, you learn before mistakes. That is you growing, preparing. If you are growing accidentally, you depend on good luck. But if you are growing intentionally, you rely on hard work. You rely on studying books, listening to talks like this. You rely on listening to inspirational thought, positive thinking thoughts. That's what you do. That is where you put in the work. If you are going accidentally, you quit early and often. But if you are going intentionally, you persevere long and hard. If you are going accidentally, you fall into bad habits. But if you are going intentionally, you fight for good habit. I am fighting for good habit right now. If you are growing accidentally, you talk big. You talk big. You talk big. But if you are growing intentionally, you follow through. You play safe. You take risks. You think like a victim. You think like a learner. I have met a lot of people in my life who thinks like a victim. I just enjoy being with them. I love people that thinks like a learner. If you are growing accidentally, you rely on talent. But if you are growing intentionally, you rely on character. If you are growing accidentally, you stop learning after graduation. But if you are growing intentionally, you never stop learning. So, my friends, thank you for joining the call. If you have any question, you can ask me. If not, I want to encourage you. I've recorded this, and so I'm going to put it on